Article 110.26 C2 of the National Electrical Code addresses the requirements for access to an egress from working space about electrical equipment. Specifically, it focuses on equipment that is rated 1200 amps or more and contains overcurrent devices, switching devices, or control devices. The primary requirement is that this equipment must have at least 2 entrances to an egress from the required working space. The intent behind this rule is to provide personnel with multiple escape routes in the event of an emergency, such as an electrical fire or arc flash. This ensures that individuals working on or near the equipment are not trapped and can quickly evacuate the area. However, the code recognizes that in some situations, providing 2 entrances may not be practical or necessary. Therefore, exceptions are provided under certain conditions. Exception number 2 allows for 1 entrance to the working space if the location of the working space provides a continuous and unobstructed means of egress to a dedicated personal door for personnel access. Exception 2 further clarifies this exception, stating that where the depth of the working space is twice the minimum depth required by 110.26 AN, 1 means of access shall be permitted. In simpler terms, if the working space in front of the electrical equipment is at least twice as deep as what the code minimally requires, then only 1 entrance is necessary, provided that the exit path is continuous and unobstructed. The critical aspect of this exception lies in the phrase continuous and unobstructed means of egress. The NEC does not provide a precise definition for this term, leaving room for interpretation by electrical inspectors and engineers. However, the general understanding is that a continuous and unobstructed exit path should be free from any obstacles that could impede or delay someone's ability to quickly and safely evacuate the working space. Obstacles could include fixed objects, stored materials, changes in elevation, or doors that are difficult to open or navigate. For example, a working space that leads directly to a hallway with a clear path to an exit door would generally be considered a continuous and unobstructed means of egress. On the other hand, a working space that leads to a storage room filled with boxes and equipment, requiring someone to navigate through the clutter to reach an exit, would not meet this requirement. Doors are a common point of contention when evaluating whether an exit path is continuous and unobstructed. A door can be considered an obstruction if it is too narrow to allow for easy passage, if it opens inward into the working space, or if it is difficult to open due to hardware issues or obstructions behind the door. However, a door that is wide enough, opens outward, and leads directly to a clear exit path would generally not be considered an obstruction. The specific dimensions of the electrical room and the layout of the equipment within it are also relevant factors. The code requires a minimum amount of dedicated space around electrical equipment to allow for safe operation and maintenance. This dedicated space includes a minimum depth in front of the equipment, as well as minimum widths on either side. These dimensions vary depending on the voltage of the equipment and the specific configuration of the installation. To determine if a particular installation meets the requirements of 110.26 C2 and its exceptions, it is necessary to consider all of these factors. Firstly, the size and rating of the electrical equipment must be determined to confirm that the 2 entrance rule applies. Secondly, the dimensions of the working space in front of the equipment must be measured to determine if it meets the minimum depth requirements specified in 110.26 AN. Thirdly, the exit path from the working space must be carefully evaluated to ensure that it is continuous and unobstructed. This evaluation should consider the presence of any obstacles, the width and orientation of any doors, and the overall accessibility of the exit route. In situations where there is doubt or uncertainty, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer. These professionals have the expertise and experience to interpret the code and apply it to specific installations. They can also provide guidance on how to modify an installation to ensure compliance with the code and to enhance the safety of personnel. The primary goal of 110.26 C2 and its exceptions is to protect the safety of electricians and other personnel who work on or near electrical equipment. By providing multiple escape routes or a clear and unobstructed exit path, the code helps to minimize the risk of injury or death in the event of an emergency. Therefore, it is essential to carefully consider these requirements when designing and installing electrical systems. Let's elaborate further on several key aspects. We begin with a more detailed examination of what constitutes a continuous and unobstructed exit. As previously mentioned, the NEC lacks a definitive definition, necessitating a practical understanding of its intent. Imagine a scenario where the working space in front of the electrical equipment leads directly to a fire-rated corridor. This corridor is well lit, free of storage, and equipped with emergency lighting. It provides a direct path to an exit discharge point, such as an exterior door leading to a safe area outside the building. This scenario clearly exemplifies a continuous and unobstructed exit. Now consider an alternative situation. The working space opens into a small room used for storing electrical components, spare parts, and tools. To reach the building's main exit corridor, one must navigate through this cluttered storage room, stepping over boxes and equipment. This storage room also houses a water heater, adding a potential hazard. This situation would not be considered a continuous and unobstructed exit due to the presence of obstacles and potential hazards that could impede or delay evacuation. Doors, as previously noted, can be a significant factor in determining whether an exit path is truly unobstructed. The width of the door is crucial. A narrow door, such as one less than 32 inches wide, can create a bottleneck, especially if personnel are wearing bulky protective gear. The direction in which the door swings is also important. A door that swings into the working space can obstruct the path, particularly if someone is already working in that area. The door hardware should be easy to operate, even in a panic situation. Panic bars or other quick release mechanisms are highly recommended for doors that serve as emergency exits. The accessibility of the door is another key consideration. If the door is difficult to reach due to its location or the presence of obstructions in front of it, it cannot be considered part of a continuous and unobstructed exit. The requirement for dedicated space around electrical equipment, as specified in 110.26 AON, is intrinsically linked to the egress requirements of 110.26 C2. The dedicated space provides a safe zone for personnel to work on the equipment, and it also serves as a pathway for evacuation in an emergency. The depth of the dedicated space, which is the distance from the front of the equipment to the nearest obstruction, must be sufficient to allow personnel to move freely and safely. The width of the dedicated space, which is the distance on either side of the equipment, must also be adequate to prevent crowding and to facilitate egress. The specific dimensions of the dedicated space vary depending on the voltage of the equipment and the conditions of the installation. 110.26 AON provides detailed tables that specify the minimum required depth based on voltage and condition. Condition 1 refers to installations where there are exposed live parts on one side of the working space and no grounded parts or grounded parts requiring grounding on the other side. Condition 2 applies where there are exposed live parts on one side of the working space and grounded parts or grounded parts requiring grounding on the other side. Condition 3 is where there are exposed live parts on both sides of the working space. The required depth increases as the voltage and the severity of the conditions increase. For example, for equipment operating at 480 volts, the minimum required depth is 3 feet for condition 1, 3.5 feet for condition 2, and 4 feet for condition 3. Understanding these conditions and the corresponding depth requirements is crucial for ensuring compliance with the code and for providing a safe working environment. Exception number 2 of 110.26 C2, which allows for one entrance to the working space under certain conditions, is not a blanket waiver of the two-entrance rule. It is a conditional exception that must be carefully evaluated to ensure that the intent of the code is met. The exception applies only if the depth of the working space is twice the minimum depth required by 110.26 AON and if the location of the working space provides a continuous and unobstructed means of egress. In other words, the exception is intended to provide flexibility in situations where the working space is unusually large and where there is a clear and safe exit path. To apply the exception correctly, one must first determine the minimum required depth based on the voltage of the equipment and the conditions of the installation, as specified in 110.26 AON. Then the actual depth of the working space must be measured to ensure that it is at least twice the minimum required depth. Finally, the exit path from the working space must be carefully evaluated to ensure that it is continuous and unobstructed. If all of these conditions are met, then the exception can be applied. However, it is important to document the rationale for applying the exception and to obtain approval from the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction. The role of the electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction is critical in ensuring compliance with 110.26 C2 and its exceptions. These individuals are responsible for reviewing electrical plans, inspecting electrical installations, and enforcing the requirements of the NEC. They have the authority to approve or reject electrical installations based on their interpretation of the code and their assessment of the safety of the installation. When faced with a situation where there is uncertainty about whether an installation complies with 110.26 C2, it is always best to consult with the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction. These individuals can provide guidance on how to interpret the code and how to modify the installation to ensure compliance. They can also help to resolve any disputes that may arise between the electrical contractor and the building owner or other stakeholders. It is important to remember that the ultimate goal of the NEC is to protect the safety of people and property. Compliance with 110.26 C2 and its exceptions is essential for achieving this goal. By providing multiple escape routes or a clear and unobstructed exit path, the code helps to minimize the risk of injury or death in the event of an electrical emergency. Therefore, it is crucial to carefully consider these requirements when designing, installing, and maintaining electrical systems. Let's consider some practical examples to illustrate how 110.26 C2 and its exceptions are applied in real-world situations. Example number 1 involves a large switchboard installed in an electrical room in a commercial building. The switchboard is rated at 2000 amps and operates at 480 volts. The electrical room is 20 feet long and 15 feet wide. There are 2 doors leading into the electrical room, one at each end. The door at one end leads to a fire-rated corridor that provides a direct path to an exit discharge point. The door at the other end leads to a storage room that is used to store electrical supplies and equipment. In this scenario, the two-entrance rule of 110.26 C2 applies because the switchboard is rated at more than 1200 amps. However, it could be argued that the exception for one entrance applies because the door at one end of the room leads to a continuous and unobstructed exit. To determine if the exception applies, the electrical inspector would need to evaluate the exit path to ensure that it is free from obstacles and that it provides a safe and easy means of egress. If the inspector determines that the exit path is acceptable, then the exception can be applied. Example number 2 involves a motor control center installed in a factory. The motor control center is rated at 1600 amps and operates at 480 volts. The motor control center is located in a dedicated electrical room that is 15 feet long and 10 feet wide. There is only one door leading into the electrical room. The door leads to a factory floor that is used for manufacturing and assembly. In this scenario, the two-entrance rule of 110.26 C2 applies because the motor control center is rated at more than 1200 amps. However, it could be argued that the exception for one entrance applies because the factory floor provides a continuous and unobstructed exit. To determine if the exception applies, the electrical inspector would need to evaluate the factory floor to ensure that it is free from obstacles and that it provides a safe and easy means of egress. The inspector would also need to consider the potential hazards that may be present on the factory floor, such as moving machinery, forklifts, and hazardous materials. If the inspector determines that the factory floor is not a safe and suitable exit path, then the exception cannot be applied, and a second entrance would be required. Example number 3 involves a panel board installed in an office building. The panel board is rated at 400 amps and operates at 208/120 volts. The panel board is located in a small electrical closet that is 6 feet long and 4 feet wide. There is only one door leading into the electrical closet. The door leads to an office hallway. In this scenario, The two-entrance rule of 110.26 C2 does not apply because the panel board is rated at less than 1200 amps. Therefore, only one entrance is required. However, it is still important to ensure that the door leading into the electrical closet is wide enough and that it opens outward to provide a safe and easy means of egress. Additionally, the electrical closet should be kept free from obstructions to ensure that personnel can access the panel board safely. These examples illustrate the importance of carefully considering all of the relevant factors when applying 110.26 C2 and its exceptions. There is no one-size-fits-all answer, and each installation must be evaluated on its own merits. By working closely with the electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction, it is possible to ensure that electrical installations comply with the code and that they provide a safe and reliable means of egress for personnel. In summary, Article 110.26 C2 of the National Electrical Code mandates two entrances and egress routes from working spaces surrounding electrical equipment rated 1200 amps or more. This requirement aims to safeguard personnel by ensuring multiple escape options during emergencies like electrical fires. An exception exists, permitting a single entrance if the working space offers a continuous and unobstructed egress path. This exception is contingent upon factors like the depth of the working space being double the minimum requirement and the exit path being clear of any impediments that could hinder swift evacuation. A door can be considered an obstruction if it's too narrow, swings inward, or is difficult to open. The dedicated space around electrical equipment, as defined in 110.26 AON, is also crucial as it provides a safe work zone and an evacuation route. Electrical inspectors play a vital role in ensuring compliance by reviewing plans, inspecting installations, and interpreting the code. Consulting with them is advisable when uncertainty arises. Real-world examples demonstrate the practical application of these rules, emphasizing that each installation requires individual assessment. The primary goal is to protect personnel and property, and adherence to these regulations is essential for electrical safety.